Please be seated. My calling is to help others in need. For this is... Apologies. Test, test. Test, test. Test, test. My calling is to help others in need. For this is what my Lord has asked of me. The work I do is directed to his task, and I will do this till he sets me free. A servant of the people I have become. Proudly, I wear this badge of honor still. I pray each day the Lord will guide my path, though there will be some that cast ill will. For the sake of the Lord and my fellow man, I enforce the law, seek to protect the weak. Lord, help me be wise in counsel always, and guide my tongue in wisdom when I speak. Dear Lord, hear my prayer this day, and help me find the good in those around. Guide me as I enforce the law, and set me upon the holy ground. Police officer's prayer. Good morning and welcome. My name is Laura Kruger-Davies, and I have the honor and the immense privilege to be serving as your funeral celebrant for today's service. We come here today with full hearts and numb minds. There are no words to express the shock, the pain, the anger, and the unbelievable sadness that surrounds us all. The only way to survive such an onslaught of the incomprehensible is to know that an even bigger halo of love, of support, of understanding, of community, and of beautiful memories is circling this wall of grief and will sustain us and will keep us from becoming engulfed. We come here today to stand with Gary's beloved wife, Linda, his children, Jessica and Daniel, his grandchildren, Everett, Brigham, Ainsley, and Alana, his parents, Gary Sr. and Sharon, his extended family, his many friends, and of course, his brothers and sisters in blue. We come to bear witness to your loss and your grief. The unspeakable became the unthinkable last Monday. And now you all have holes in your lives because Gary is gone. We come together today to say to you that we are willing companions on your journey of grief and to pledge to you to be there when the travels become too much. On behalf of Gary's family, please allow me to thank you all sincerely for being here for this most important and sacred moment. You touched Gary's life in your own special way, and in return, you are here to bear witness to the impact that he had on your life. Your presence today helps this family to begin the process of turning their tears into memories. We will stop to hear the stories of his life, stand in awe of his exuberant nature, his love of people, and his determined spirit. We are here to laugh and to cry together, to celebrate his strength, his courage, his kindness, and his compassion. You are here to acknowledge that Gary left a handprint on your heart an imprint on your life and to express gratitude that he made a difference in this world. You are here telling this family that they did not love Gary alone and that they do not mourn for him alone either, but with the strength, the unity, and the support of everyone here today. Now, I'm not a real proponent on that death happens to teach us a lesson. Whether death steals in during the night to a body that is already feeble and racked with pain, or it arrives to stop a young life before it has ever truly begun, or abruptly appears in the blink of an eye and takes with it a man with so much left to do. The only lesson that we can glean from death is that it comes to each of us, and we will not know the time nor the manner. The lessons to be learned lie in the life that has been lived, no matter the length. They lie in the people he touched, the accomplishments he had, the differences his living made among us. That is why we join our hearts and our hands together today to acknowledge and to celebrate, to remember and to mourn. Gary Russell Young, Jr. was a blessed soul among us all, and his influence and his spirit will live on forever. Now please, let us quiet our minds and focus our hearts on Gary and his family during this slideshow, followed by a very special message from one of his favorite bands, Lincoln's own, the Killigans. Gary Russell Young Jr. was born on October 24th, 1963, to his parents Gary and Sharon Young on Orlando Air Force Base. He was born into a military family, both of his parents serving their country proudly in the United States Air Force. Even as a child, Gary was a very fast learner. He cut his teeth on his Grandma Kate's rocking chair, the teeth imprints, the first of many marks that he would leave on this world. He began walking around 8 months old, and that walking quickly turned into running wherever he was going. By age 2, he was starting to figure out how to ride a bike, and from that moment on, his life was all gas, no brakes. As an Air Force brat, he and his siblings, Loretta and Monica, had to endure moving around from place to place. They went from Florida to New Jersey to South Carolina to Hawaii for a few years. In Hawaii, he found his true calling as a big brother, being the perfect balance of a watchful eye and an absolute complete pest. He and Monica liked to team up and pick on Loretta. Together they would kidnap her beloved Mrs. Beasley doll, hang it from a tree, and beat it with sticks like a piñata as their sisters screamed in horror. After all, you're not a real big brother if you're not tormenting your siblings at least a little. From Hawaii, the family moved to Colorado Springs. This is where Gary began high school. He was active in the drum section of the school's band. He was an accomplished athlete on the soccer, football, and gymnastics teams. At the end of his sophomore year, the family moved a final time, finding their home in Bruning, Nebraska. Gary would joke with his family that the drum section in Colorado Springs had more students than all of Bruning. That clean-cut professional officer you all knew once strolled the halls of Bruning High with hair down to his shoulders, beautifully feathered, and even had an earring hanging from one of his earlobes. He was a self-described hellraiser, a title that he definitely earned. He made friends easily, almost effortlessly, and with that came lots of willful partners to have as much fun as possible. And sometimes the fun went a little bit too far, but life is sometimes about pressing your limits, and it's definitely sometimes about pressing the limits of those around you. Like on one of the many occasions that Gary and his buddies had a little too much fun and way too much beer. One night in particular stands out. After a night of fun, somehow he and his friends got home safely, luckily. What wasn't lucky was that Gary had high-centered his Mustang in a ditch on the ride home, the very same ditch the family car would drive by the next morning on their way to church, leading to his father, who almost never says such things, to exclaim, "Well, this is a fine fucking mess." A statement that earned its place into the family repertoire of family stories. Even with all the fun he had, Gary still ensured that he was a good student first, that he got his work done, holding himself to his own high standard. He received excellent marks in school, in all of his classes, and went on to graduate in 1981. In the summer of '81, Gary watched his father become a sheriff's deputy of Thayer County. That sandy-haired, blue-eyed boy had always watched his dad, watching as he led not only their family, but by watching him do everything in life with honesty, integrity, and respect. He may have only been learning from his father the way all boys do, but what he was truly watching was the template for his own life, of the man that he would soon become. From high school, Gary was accepted at the University of Kearney, where he studied criminal justice, but majored in partying and beer. He did well his first year of school, but by his sophomore year, his studies in hops and barley took precedent, his grades slipped, and he decided to take a break from school. Gary always knew he wanted to be of service to others. He knew that he was put on this earth to do something to help his fellow man. He saw how his father served the Hebron community, and he knew that he was destined to walk the same path. So he began applying for jobs in law enforcement and was soon offered a position at the Crete Police Department. 1985 was the beginning of many great things for Gary. August 5th of that year, Gary Young Jr. put his badge, number 108, over his heart for the very first time. In December that same year, Gary crossed paths with a woman that would shape the rest of his life. At a party at the Cherry Hut, fate was hard at work putting Gary and Linda together for the first time. And they hit it off right away, which made it very surprising to Linda when Gary didn't call her the next day, or the next day, or for weeks after. But fate does not give up easily. In January of '86, while standing in the parking lot with Tom Reeves, a minor with a case of beer tucked under his arm, Linda saw a patrol car drive by and took a chance. What she shouted was, "Hey, Gary." What he heard was, "Hey, pig." So he threw the car into reverse, and Tom, beer still in hand, took off running. And Gary just rolled down his window and began chuckling as he watched Tom go. Linda asked him why the hell he hadn't called her. And he sheepishly told her that she didn't think he wanted him to. To all the men in the room, that sound was all the women in the room rolling their eyes in unison. To all the women in the room, rest easy. He was quickly yet gently pointed in the right direction. Their first date, Gary picked Linda up in his mustard-colored pickup, and they headed to Lincoln for a dinner of Mexican food and to start getting to know each other better. The evening felt like the beginning of something significant, something new and exciting, yet familiar at the same time. The conversation came easy, and the sparks that were already ignited began to feverishly fly. The evening ended with a polite kiss at the door, and of course, a promise to call this time. The very next morning, when Linda and her friend Leanne were getting gas, in strolled Gary. This time there was no hesitation. There was no hiccup, no stumble, no loss of nerve. Gary walked right up to Linda, pulled her in close, and laid one right on her, right in front of everyone. And from that moment on, she was his, and he was hers. The two saw each other every day after that. They quickly became each other's best friends. They told each other everything, supported one another. They were each other's cheerleaders, sounding boards, and inspiration. They knew so confidently that what they had was the real deal, that just 3 months into dating, Gary dropped to one knee and asked her to marry him. Gary and Linda were married on May 23rd, 1987, becoming man and wife and best friends for life. A little over a year later, Linda told Gary something that shook the very ground that he stood on, that he was going to be a father. This terrified him. He became nervous, uneasy. He was absolutely freaking out. He was vocal about not thinking he was ready. But thankfully, the people around him listened to his concerns and fears and reminded him that he could do absolutely anything he set his mind to. Then in February of 1989, Gary and Linda welcomed their beautiful baby girl into this world, their sweet pea, their daughter Jessica. She was born via C-section, which meant that Linda was barely conscious and needed to focus on her own healing. And just as predicted, when the moment came, Gary set to work quickly becoming the very best dad that he could be. He asked the nurses to show him everything that he needed to know: how to change a diaper, how to swaddle her, how to feed and to burp her. His hands that at first fumbled with these tasks quickly became expertly skilled. So 2 years later, when they welcomed their baby boy, their love bug Daniel, he was ready and confident in the dad that he had become. Jessica and Daniel had the very best dad. He was the kind of father that made you believe that you could accomplish absolutely anything if you worked hard enough for it. He was also the kind of dad to chew your ass to remind you that you were better than how you were behaving. He taught them that life's important lessons, how none of us are perfect, that we all have faults, that we all have bad days, but at the center of it all, we're all human. Gary taught his children a lot like he policed. Every person, every single person was to be treated respectfully. The way you treated others was a reflection of what kind of person you are. Things like race or social status didn't change anything. We are all people, and we are all deserving of kindness, of respect, and that we should be judged by the intent of our hearts, not by what surrounds it. He worked evenings and nights when the kids were growing up, which meant that there were many nights when Gary wasn't home. But he understood the power of being a present parent. He knew that just showing up for your kids mattered the most. So dance recitals, soccer games, a play at school, the kids would look up to see their dad in full uniform, smiling proudly and cheering them on in the very back of the room or at the very edge of the field. And when he was home, he led by example. Taking care of their kids, taking care of their home was a 50-50 job. Gary and Linda were a partnership, a team. They showed their kids what a good relationship looks like, how you are to treat one another and work together, ensuring that when the days came for Jessica and Daniel to find their forevers, they never had to settle for anything less, and neither of them did. He was there. He was watching them become the best versions of themselves. He was inspiring them. What they didn't know was that they were inspiring him too. Gary's children and the unwavering support of Linda were the biggest motivators for going back to school. So he enrolled at Bellevue University and completely submersed himself in creating an even better father, better husband, and a better cop. But to speak more on Gary's career and accomplishments during his 41 years at the Crete Police Department, please welcome Lieutenant Don Jonas.
Can everybody hear me okay? I have had the good fortune of working my entire law enforcement career with Gary. I now have the unenviable task of trying to use the words to describe how amazing Gary was, even though I know that words won't do him justice. But for any of you who already knew him, you know that. But please indulge me. Those of us at the Crete Police Department had the unique position of having 3 Gary Youngs in our life. We had Chief Gary Young Sr., his dad, Gary Sr., who was a regular fixture at the police department. And just to make things more confusing, our FOP attorney is also Gary Young. So I have been witness to many a phone call that the chief would answer, and he would have a confused look on his face, and I'm sure the person on the other end did as well, as they figured out, oh, this isn't the attorney that I was looking for, and the phone call would end. Gary was the definition of a servant leader. He never forced the fact that he was in charge. He would come in to the office and ask me if he could take his patrol car to go somewhere. And I would have to tell him over and over, Gary, you're the boss. Those are all your cars. Take whatever you want. But the next time, I would get asked again. His selfless concern for making sure that the officers in this department were treated fairly was obvious when he helped form our Fraternal Order of Police. He put the effort into getting that established when ultimately he was not even allowed to be a part of the union or benefit from any of the things that came from it. But it didn't matter to him. He was glad that he helped create it. Even as the chief, who, if any of you that are in a union know, the chief is usually on the other side of the table, he was always with us. We would go out every Christmas and collect toys for our toy distribution. We would be in front of Walmart in the cold the weekend after Thanksgiving, and Gary would be out there, even though he's not a member of the FOP. His support for the FOP was unwavering. He was also known for the way that he was a caretaker for the department. You could always count on him to show up with a box of donuts, but it wasn't just a box of donuts. He would hand pick the donuts that he knew the officers liked. So he would come in and he would tell Lincoln Morehouse, "There's a Bavarian cream for you." And then Lincoln, in his weird way, would put a glove on and grab the garbage can and eat that donut over the trash can. Then he would come up to me and lean in and tell me, "I got one with sprinkles for you, because sprinkles are for winners." He knew that no matter what donut he picked, Jeff Kramer and Noah Zock were going to eat it, so they were taken care of as well. And then whatever made it to the night shift, they got some as well. But then Gary would grab his cake donut and he would walk away with a smile on his face because he was happy that he got to take care of us. Gary was also very proud of his extensive meme collection. Any of you that are friends with him on Facebook will understand what I'm talking about. Those memes brightened up our days. We look forward to them. So much so that we already had a conversation about who's going to carry that on. And Lincoln Morehouse, who I would say is equally as warped as Gary's sense of humor was, has taken that over. Because we don't want that to go away. But not only that, he didn't just post things. He made a point of going in and finding everything that any of the officers posted and liking it. It wasn't a day if I didn't have a like on something from Gary. It was that important to him. He wanted to make sure that he was connected. The same goes for, you could be at work and it didn't matter what time, you would get a phone call from Gary just saying, "Hey, how's the shift going?" Just checking in. Because that's how much he cared. And even though he was the chief, he still remained one of us. He was a part of all of our stories. He was a part of all of our inside jokes. Noah actually made the mistake of telling all of us that he was afraid of owls. And so Gary set off to make sure that any little owl tchotchke that he found somewhere, he got, or a picture, and it would end up strategically placed on Noah's desk. Then there was also Colin Gaiman's going away party, when Gary had so much fun that at the end of the night, when he went to lay down, he missed the bed. So we never really looked at him like the chief, because he was always just one of us. Gary was also connected with officers on a social level. He had his core group of people that knew what they were doing every St. Patrick's Day. They had a standing date with a pint of beer and the Killigans. As you can tell by the number of people who were here, Gary never met a stranger. He talked to everyone. I recently went to a training with him, and it was unbelievable, the amount of talking that he did. I finally had to tell him, Gary, shut up and sit down, because they were trying to teach, and he just kept on talking. Linda can vouch for this, because they would go to the store, and she knew at some point she was going to lose him, because he would find somebody that he had to talk to. So she would go ahead and do her shopping, and then she'd go retrieve him at the end, because he had to talk to everybody. He had a way of making everybody feel special. My daughter said that she felt guilty for mourning him because she wasn't family. I had to explain to her that the reason it made her so sad is because he is. Gary's going to live on through the police department. He took great pride in mentoring and shaping the next generation. He thrived on seeing us succeed. He wanted nothing more than for the department to continue growing and to keep moving in a positive direction. Because of his guidance, we will be able to move forward professionally, but we will forever struggle emotionally. The pain that we feel is the price that we pay for having the good fortune of knowing and loving Gary. On a lighter note, Gary was known to be quite the fashion plate. He was very proud of his outfits and his shoes and his watches. He would spend so much time telling us Linda had Kohl's cash and what a deal she got. And then if he dressed himself, he would come in and he would find me or he would find Kylie and he would say, does this work? How does this look? And he would have to model it for us. And it always looked good, so we told him. But if Linda had dressed him, he was flawless. Which brings us to Linda. Or should I say the lovely Linda. Gary would never get tired of talking about her. The big smile that you see in all of his pictures, that was her. Not just because he made her happy, because he said, Linda said, if you're not showing teeth, then you're not smiling. That's actually the time that I started showing my teeth when I smiled, because Linda said we had to do it. Every chance he got, he had a lunch date with her, almost always at Dairy Queen. Linda's going to be taking a break from Dairy Queen for a little while. I think that Lincoln explained it best when he said that they had a love that fairy tale authors attempt to emulate and always come up short. Their love should inspire us in our relationships. The love for the rest of his family was just as strong. Jessica, even as an adult, was still Gary's little sweet pea. Daniel was always Gary's +1 for any ear-splitting concert that came to the area. Ryan and Bailey were welcomed into the family, which led to Gary and Linda's pride and joy, the grandkids. Everett, Brigham, Ainsley, and Alana, more affectionately referred to as Baby Girl 2.0. Gary Sr. and Sharon, thank you for raising such an amazing son. Just know that even though Gary is gone, You will always be a part of our law enforcement family if you'll have us. Gary was known as the guy that would show up on scene and try to rush us along. He had little to no patience. I can already see it. He would arrive on scene and ask Audrey Arbuckle who was going to go to jail. And she'd have to explain to him, Gary, I just got here. Like, give me a minute. I have to figure out what's going on. He'd usually deliver a hand motion telling us to wrap it up. And I feel like he would probably be doing that to me right now, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Gary was a follower of Stoic philosophy. He regularly included Stoic quotes, including ones from Marcus Aurelius, in our trainings. One of those quotes seems appropriate right now. Not to live as if you had endless years ahead of you. Death overshadows you. While you're alive and able, be good. But Gary took that one step further. He was great. A person's legacy is defined as the impact that they leave behind through their actions, values, and how they treated others. Take a look around. All of these people are here because they love Gary. From where I'm standing, it looks like he had life figured out. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Jonas. In May of 2018, Gary earned himself another title that he wore as a badge of honor, the title of Grandpa. All of the nerves he had when he became a dad were gone. Getting to be a grandpa was the role that Gary was born to play. From the moment that he held his first grandchild, he knew that they would forever be his pride and joy. Everett quickly became his little shadow, following him around everywhere, watching soccer and hockey games with him, and taking frequent trips to Grandpa's office. And the fun only grew when Brigham, Ainsley, and Alana joined the family. Grandpa, or Crampaw, as Briggs calls him, was who you looked to when you needed coaching on the soccer field, or you needed to learn how to throw a football. He was the one to always say yes to going to the park. And of course, Grandpa could be easily convinced that stopping for ice cream would truly make any day better. He made sure that they knew that he was their biggest fan. When they stepped up to the plate or they walked out on stage to dance, he never missed an opportunity to show them just how proud he was to be their Grandpa. Marcus Aurelius once said, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love." And he also said, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." Gary Young lived. He made a mark on all of us. And the magnitude of his impact is so immense that we will never truly know just how many lives he changed, who he inspired to be better, who crossed paths with him and walked away believing that they could be something more. What we do know is that when he left this world on July 27th, 2026, he left behind some big shoes that will never, ever truly be filled. A family that loved him fiercely, a department deeply influenced by his leadership, an incredible example of what it means to be a good spouse, a good parent, a good grandparent, a good cop, and an amazing human being. You all here today are Gary's legacy. And with being someone's legacy comes great responsibility. You are responsible to show the world where you came from and what you learned from this man. You are responsible to carry on this torch. So remember him by reaching out your hand in friendship as often as possible. You will never know who might need a little human connection to make their day or even their life a little better. Be honest. What you say and what you do matters. There is great value in others knowing that what you say and what you do can be trusted. How you treat others is a direct reflection of your character. So remember the golden rule and do unto others as you would want done unto you. Lastly, life is precious. So remember what's important. What's important does not lie on your phone screen or in your bank account. The important things in life are coming home to your wife who will rub your back and help you shake away the hard day. It's on the ice cream covered face of your grandchild as they tell you about their day. It's in the laughs you share with your kids over silly memes or Family Guy quotes. If you quit focusing on what you have and start focusing on who you'll have, you'll realize that the life you have, in the words of Peter Griffin, are pretty freaking sweet. Friends, please join me in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those that trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Again, on behalf of the family, thank you for being here for this most important and sacred moment. Furthermore, the outpour of comments, messages, cards, phone calls, text, and support have been a great source of comfort to this family. And they thank you for the tremendous waves of respect and compassion. We will be processing to the graveside, but please ensure that your hazard flashers are on, and please follow instructions given to you when we enter the cemetery. There will be overflow parking available, and we will return here after the burial for a luncheon. Following Chief Gary Young's last call, funeral staff will dismiss you shortly. Over the last 41 years, Chief Gary Young served honorably as a police officer for the city of Crete, but his contributions to the law enforcement community reached far beyond those city limits. He touched countless lives and made a positive impact throughout his career. At this time, law enforcement honors will be rendered to recognize his life of service. Please remain seated through the remainder of the ceremony.
Attention all units, attention all units. This is the final call for Gary Young, badge 108. Gary R. Young Jr. began his career in 1985 as an officer with the Crete Police Department. Gary spent his career rising through the ranks of the department, holding those ranks of sergeant and lieutenant before being appointed to the Crete Police Chief in 2022. He spent every second of those 41 years making a difference. Gary deeply loved his family and the officers of the Crete Police Department. He made sure to combine these two loves, creating one big family that he happily watched over. Gary never been a stranger and talked with everyone he came in contact with, genuinely caring about what they were saying. Gary was a servant leader who made sure that he continuously built up the next generation, preparing them to carry on the proud traditions of the law enforcement he loved so much. Ultimately, his greatest achievements and proudest moments were while performing the duties of husband, son, father, and grandfather. The pain of his loss will be widespread and long-lasting. Chief, loved one, mentor, friend, rest easy. We will take the watch from here. JB, Sling County Communications clear.